Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Alphawaves, and we are here with our lovely guest, August 12th.
Love. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank
Always
you for being
appreciated.
here. Yeah. So, do you want to tell us who you are, what you do, what you're bringing here for us today?
Bringing here just good vibes, just good vibes, good debates. But who am I as a person? My name is August 12th. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, artist, musician, engineer, couple other things as well, but that's the main stuff. Like music, entertainment is my background, so
Oh, well, again, thank you for being here,
and again, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
it's not every day I get to be on a podcast, so
that's true, and we're glad that you chose us.
Thank you.
So today we're here to talk about something really exciting, something really current, and that's overexposure. So what we kind of wanted to talk about with that, or explore, is, do you think the world is becoming too overexposed online? And is it 100%. A good thing or a bad thing?
100%. I think, is it a good thing? I guess in some cases it can be good, because overexposure in terms of content can definitely help businesses thrive. Like, for example, there's a comedian called Matt Rife, and he definitely, I wouldn't use the word overexposed, but he definitely posted a lot of consistent content during the COVID period of his stand-up comedian performances. And right now he's doing like world tours and stuff.
So was that clips like of his shows and stuff?
So it's like short form content. That's where a lot of overexposure is, I guess. But my main point is, I think it can be good in a way, just mainly because it can help people thrive in certain areas in terms of like business and stuff like that. But being overexposed in a negative way depends on what you're taking in. Because if you're consistently taking in positive content, then I guess there wouldn't really be much of an issue of overexposure to that. However, consistently taking in negative content and being overexposed to that will definitely shape your reality as well. So that's one negative to do with overexposure.
See, what do you think about, so part of like the inspiration for this episode was looking at TikToks of saying, people who are sharing certain experiences about their life. So, one trend going around is people talking about their dates or what happened, and then that person who went on a date with them.
I've seen a couple of those.
Ends up seeing the TikTok. Like, what's your kind of thoughts on that? Because for me, I don't know. I'm just like, where do you draw the line in terms of sharing your own life and having those story times, but then also doing things that affect other people? Like, is there some kind of consent that needs to happen for other people involved in those stories who are hearing that they were ghosted for that reason via your TikTok?
I've got a question, and then when I get the answer, it will all make sense, right? So when you watch these TikToks, like, what do you get out of them? You're entertained, right? So that's what the platform is. It's for entertainment. And I think people they either have a conscious understanding of it or a subconscious understanding that that's exactly what that platform is for. So a lot of people want to just entertain others, either with their life stories or, just silly things that occur. And that's mainly why they're doing that. It could be detrimental to the person who they went on a date with or stuff like that, but in most cases the person's not actually named, so it's not like a name and shame type of case or scenario. So I feel like if they feel away because this has now gone viral and it's a situation that was in relation to them, I understand it, but at the same time, you're not named, so you can still get on with your life comfortably. You know what I mean?
True, I guess so.
Do you disagree? I'm looking at your face, and you look like you disagree.
My eyes are darting all over. I'm like, okay, no, I don't know, because I think it depends. Because say if you are having like a good date with someone, or you think it's going well, and that person's still speaking to you, and then they're posting stuff like this, it is entertaining, but is it something that's been posted just for attention, you know, and you're using people's real experiences and potentially their real feelings for that. And another example I'll give is I saw a TikTok about this girl who was talking about her brother's girlfriend / sister-in-law, her sister-in-law, something, some kind of very close dynamic like that, where her sister-in-law or brother's girlfriend, whatever the relation was, she did something to upset her. So she, you know, created this whole TikTok talking about the experience, and in a nutshell saying that, you know, she was doing well, her sister-in-law was quite rude to her, so she gathered that maybe her sister-in-law was jealous. And then in the comments, not only did they name and find this sister-in-law, but they found her whole TikTok and started jumping to her TikTok. So it's just so easy to find the person that you're talking about.
I don't know if it's easy, but I think it's easy for those who have an understanding of the situation and probably know people involved. Because me personally, if I've seen a lot of these TikToks, there's no way for me to do up FBI and find these people, you know.
I mean, I personally do not have the time. But some people do. And I think, because I was thinking about this and I was like, does it enable the person whose story is to continue believing their narrative without leaving room for reflection or being accountable? Like, are we creating that kind of toxic cancel culture of just outing everybody in your story and your frame without any kind of, you know, way to measure or safeguard that?
I don't think we're creating it. It's already been created. Like, cancel culture is a very real thing.
Yeah.
And everything you mentioned, that's already occurring, and it's been occurring for a couple of years now. But at the same time, on the same topic of that, right? So, you know, like the way I look at it is TikTok is just YouTube videos and short form content. So people have been doing like overexposure of their lives for years in like YouTube vlogs and stuff. Yeah. Like, that's where a lot of it started to begin, innit? Like, so, yeah, I think, I don't know, man. I don't really see much of an issue with it at the moment. I can see where it's detrimental in places. Yeah. But I think it's just down to the individual of how they consume the content, to be fair.
Like how seriously you take it.
Yeah.
And it is scary when you see people taking it so seriously to the point where they're finding other people in the story. Yeah. I just don't really know how I feel about it. Like, because also, I think it affects me personally, not in terms of those exact people, but in terms of how much I tend to expose or not want to expose myself in my platforms or in real life as well. Like, I don't know, how do you, like, does that affect you?
Not really. I mean, I know what should be shared and what shouldn't be shared. I know what's personal and what can be made public. It's just, what's the word? It's a D word. My boy says it to me all the discernment. That's it. Yeah, my boy says it to me all the time. It's just about having it's just about having discernment. Like, if you have discernment, then I think you know what you should be posting and what you shouldn't be posting. I think in terms of like, well, with my industry, because I'm in the music industry, you kind of need to. Well, you don't need to, but it's more of a benefit if you do post your life, because then, you know, it gives people a way of being emotionally invested in who you are as a person, rather than what you're trying to sell to them, whether it be merchandise, music, etc., etc. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, it's okay to share some personal things. Yeah. But yeah, I think my limits are, I don't really like post family members. So I've never posted my mum or my dad on my Instagram, TikTok, and none of that. I don't want none of that.
How come? Like, why is that a boundary?
Oh, so
let's pause there for a sec.
funny story, right? So this was years ago, when this was like before Instagram was Instagramming. So it was probably like maybe like 2014, something like that. Wow, 2014, 2015. Okay. It was the early days, and it was Mother's Day. Someone posted their mum on Instagram, and there was like 100 comments because the mum's a young mum, innit?
Yeah.
So she's like maybe just about hit 40 or just a little bit under 40. And yeah, a lot of the comments were just like, oh, your mum is a MILF, like, oh, your mum is beautiful, let me get your mum's number. Like I'm just thinking, Rod, like there's no like line. Like you lot are all willing to cross that one line where it's like, yeah, you don't disrespect someone's mum, you don't talk about someone's family member.
And it's Mother's Day, just like the picture and
that's
move
what I'm saying.
on. Yeah.
But yeah, discernment again, innit? You can't trust other people to act the way that you think is the right way to act. So
behave appropriately, especially online. Yeah.
And you know, a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So from that point on, I was just like, yeah, I don't want my mum on no social media. I don't want her posting it. This social media stuff can be dangerous. So
yeah, fair. That's such a random example. Like even just something not small, because that's not small, I imagine, for the person that's really annoying, but even though it was complimentary, it's like it is so invasive on your life.
right
to kind of see that.
I don't know how that guy feels or felt in that moment, but I know if that was me, I'd be wanting to fight everyone in the comments. So.
Yeah. Just delete the post.
Do you know what I mean?
Mother's Day.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I never post my mum for Mother's Day. I just post like one of my baby pictures.
That's sweet.
And that's it,
On that topic, actually, what do you think about that in terms of like those kind of parents
that have like pages for their children?
Yeah, have pages for their children, or people who. Or people who like post loads of content of their kids and stuff like that, like the mum influencers and
I
families.
think, do you know what it is? Yeah. Everything nowadays, let me word this correctly. Majority of things these days is just a cash grab. And it's like your child has just come out the womb. And you've already made an Instagram page for your child, and your child is now a baby model. And what? Yeah. Let your child have a childhood first. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be making an Instagram page for your child and all the activities that your child gets up to in their home. I'll be honest, there's a couple people that will care, but majority of people in life in general, in reality, do not care what your child is doing at the age of 8 months old. Do you know what I mean?
It's so strange. Like I used to work in that industry as like a sales person for mum influencers. And so you kind of get to know them and stuff. And it's so crazy seeing, because on the one hand, they are enriching their children's lives with all of these like brand deals and these experiences and trips and stuff like that. But it is so exhausting at the same time that you're not really being present, you know, because it's not just you pick up your camera and take a video, you're setting everything up, you're getting the lighting right, you're doing all these things. That's it. Sorry to cut your wisdom, but it's like you're trying to create those moments when realistically those should be organic moments with your child. To me, I think, see, I'm a little bit more lenient when it's someone who's already an influencer and then they're just basically adding their child to their brand. I'm a little bit more lenient with that, but for me it's just, I don't think you need to make your child an influencer. Yeah, I don't think so either. And also, unless they, sorry to cut you again, but unless they want to be an influencer at whatever age, when they might see someone on a TikTok or YouTube and be like, yeah, I want to be like that person. Mom, dad, how do I do that? Hold this camera for me. Like, then that's when I'm like, okay, you can encourage that behavior, but don't like try to force them into it to get brand deals and XYZ. But just let your child live and be the best parent possible. Do you know what I mean? Just take photos and have a photo album. That's it. Like the old days. Just do that. Because I don't know, even like one incident we had when I was working in that workplace was one of the mum influencers, someone in a video that she made, so it wasn't herself, it was like a group of friends on this paid trip, they said something and she got cancelled because of that. What did she say? I can't remember what it was, but it was something crazy, I believe. Okay. I can't remember. Yeah. Okay. But I remember we were all like, oh yeah, you're going to be cancelled for that. And it was just really, really sad actually to observe her whole life fall apart because she was the main breadwinner in order to, you know, from the success she was having from her channel. And just in a second, in one video, it all fell apart. And she kind of went through like a very horrible episode after that because of it all, and just receiving all these trolls and haters online. You know, she's not a celebrity, she's a normal woman. She just happens to have millions and millions of followers, but she lives, you know, in a remote place doing this. So it kind of puts it into reality how fragile that world can be and how easily it can just drop off, I guess. And I wonder how much that impacts your family life as well when you're going through something like that. Especially
if you're the breadwinner. The thing is, I don't believe people who are on the other end of the cancel culture, like the ones that are trying to do the cancelling, I don't think they actually understand the implications that cancelling or trying to cancel somebody, because I don't believe you can ever truly be cancelled. But yeah, I don't think they understand what the implications are on that person that they're quote unquote cancelling.
Yeah.
Because you actually don't know what type of person they are behind closed doors. You're just kind of going off of whatever they said in 2015.
It's so true.
And then it's like, yeah, but it's 2024 now. That's 9 years later. There's been 9 years of growth. You liked who they were up until this point.
Yeah.
So why is it that this one comment they stupidly made when they were uneducated on the topic or probably a little bit ignorant to it and didn't understand? Do you know what I mean?
Or that their friend might have made like something.
Do you know what I mean?
Like implicated.
Anything. I think people change over time at some point. So it's like, yeah, you also have to give people an opportunity to say their piece.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and kind of living their truth. And even what you said with not knowing what people are like behind closed doors, that's so true, because, you know, when we meet these influencers, or if there was like an event with all of them, I'm not saying every single person is like this, everyone's different, but all of them were so anxious and insecure about different things. They just weren't these bubbly, confident, you know, got it all together.
Nobody is who they portray themselves to be on the big screen still.
But then don't you think, in like the flip side then of overexposure, that can sometimes be a positive thing when people are sharing their vulnerabilities?
Repeat the question again for me.
Like, do you think it's a positive thing when people online are sharing their vulnerabilities? Or, you know, because I think there's a fine line.
Depends on what they're sharing, for one.
What would be the thing for you that would be okay, and what would be like the line that isn't?
What would I and what wouldn't I share? All right, so I'll just use relationships for an example, yeah?
Okay.
So let's just say I got into a relationship tomorrow. I probably would not promote that anywhere on social media for like people with evil eye to come and see it, or man them to be in my DMs like, oh yeah, I know your girl and she's done blah, blah, blah. Or maybe even like vice versa. Yeah. It's just, nah, man, that's not needed. It's an enemy of progress. And then let's just say 2-3 years later down the line, after making all this content with my girlfriend, we're now breaking up, and now I have to come to the internet and be like,
oh, breakup story,
we've broken up, and now but the thing is, on the flip side of that, right, so when you have a breakup story and then you make like a whole YouTube video or TikTok video around it, and people obviously know the like relationship as well, you're gonna get way more attention off that one breakup video than you would from like all the other videos. And that's what I find weird, like people just are randomly drawn to that. People want to know
what happened. They want to, because they're invested in your life now. They want to know
they're invested in the negative parts as well, though. That's the thing. Yeah.
But also, I feel like when people share personal things in terms of how they've overcome something, or like a mental health issue, or even like a health issue, you know, a physical health issue, an illness, something like that. Sometimes I think that can be helpful.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that's on the positive side of it, for sure.
Yeah. I think it can be useful, but then at the same time, it's that whole line between wanting attention and then over populating timelines with just negative things at the same time, you know, and that whole thing about accountability, because you also can't just keep complaining about your life, you know, 100%. And have that become your brand.
100%. People will make that their identity.
Yeah.
That's the it's a funny topic, that one.
Yeah, go on, tell me. What's your thoughts on that?
On
that thing? Yeah,
like making
something your identity online. Yeah.
Just I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I'm just trying to find the right words. Because I don't want to get cancelled. Yeah. I don't want to get cancelled. You know what I mean?
We'll bring you back.
I don't know. I think a lot of people today, especially with this whole overexposure stuff, there's a lot of like victim mentality as well that comes alongside it, and then that becomes people's identity. Like, oh, this person done this to me, and da-da-da-da-da. And then they just play the victim. Or maybe they are the victim, but they overdo it so that they can get the sympathy vote from the audience or anyone who's going to be watching, and then make that person the villain of their story, which is perfectly fine because their feelings are relevant in it. But at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, but life happens. I don't know, man. Sometimes you can, depends on the situation, but sometimes you can live and move on, you know? Yeah.
And that's the thing. Do you find, like, in terms of the whole identity thing, how do you deal with that in your life, like with the line of work that you do too? Like,
I don't really struggle with identity. I feel like I'm very self-aware enough to know who I am, who I don't want to be. Yeah. And then, when I come across people that are like what I don't want to be, just kind of stay away from them. Don't really watch their content. Doesn't align with me, doesn't resonate with me. So I just keep my distance, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I've never really struggled with identity too tough as an adult. More so as a adolescent, when you're learning yourself,
still growing. I think,
and that was during an era where there was no internet as well.
Exactly. So, that was just a real life.
That was just real life. You had to get on with it, you know what I mean? There was no one to cry to.
I think it's hard though, like for me, I don't know, with the whole identity thing. I think it's so interesting, especially on like a well-being platform like this, because a lot of the work is kind of sharing what you've been through and overcoming that and stuff that. And I think sometimes it can be hard to remember that you don't have to be the expert on something to do that, because you're just sharing your experience. But then there is this feeling of, are people going to be judging this? Or like, am I qualified enough to talk about this? Or should you share that part of stuff, like when you're still in the middle of a journey? I think there's such an emphasis on where you end up or where you start. There's not really much exposure on that middle part, which is often very up and down or circular. It's never really like a straight, easy line. Yeah.
People always post the beginning and then the end of the journey. So it's funny. It's funny that.
But do people even want to see that, the middle of the journey, you
know? I think there are some people that want to see the middle, but I feel like, so there's formulas to success, right? So if you could watch someone go from being a nobody to being a successful somebody, and you watch their entire journey on like a YouTube video, and this is where like the daily vloggers came into play. So it's like you can literally see what they were doing on a day-to-day basis that kind of got them to that point. So it's a new, I don't know, man.
What do you think about, in that same breath then, reality TV shows?
I don't like reality TV.
But what's the difference I know there's clear differences, but isn't that similar in a sense with like watching someone start their journey and how their empire grows, I guess?
What reality TV show are you talking about, where they're starting from nothing and then their empire's growing?
Not necessarily starting from nothing, but starting from where they are and then their journey of growth. Potentially.
These
I'm just devil's advocate. I'm just naming a scenario, you know, because
see, the way I look at, because I don't really watch TV much, right? Or movies too tough that are kind of close to reality, because the way I look at the way I look at TV shows, movies, there's a saying, so art imitates life and life imitates art. So they draw inspiration from each other.
Yeah.
So even though reality TV is just TV, and some of it can be scripted or some of it can be like egged on or forced by the producers of the show, etc., etc. So I still look at reality TV and I'm just like, raw, okay, so there's people out there in this world that are just like this person. That is scary. It's very scary for me because I take everything like quite literal.
Yeah.
That's one of my flaws. I probably shouldn't do that, but it
is what it is.
No,
because it's hard not to, you know, because you're seeing something that, yes, some bits may be scripted, but you're being brought into part of someone's life at the same time. So as a viewer, it's hard to distinguish what is real and what isn't in that scenario.
Yeah.
And then this supposed normal person becomes a big celebrity and now has this huge voice and this responsibility.
This is the thing with reality TV shows. I'll just take Love Island, for example.
Yeah.
Not saying like it's a bad TV show or anything. I don't watch it. However, the like the end result is you're taking literal nobodies, putting them on a show in front of the masses, the mass population. And then off the back of that, they're now becoming influencers, which is great. It's giving a lot of people an opportunity to, you know, probably come into themselves and, you know, provide for themselves, their family members, etc., etc. But there's also a case where you could be giving the wrong person the power to like have another platform off the back of that, and what they decide to do with that platform in like maybe in a negative way as well. You got to think about that too. So it's like, I don't believe everyone deserves to become a celebrity just off the back of a reality TV show. I think that is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that's the world we live in today. Sorry to cut you.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think the fact that that is an opportunity, you know, like people go onto those shows thinking I can completely turn my life around and become this rich celebrity and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people, even overexposure with celebrities in that sense, I empathize with it. Is empathize the right word? Because I haven't experienced it, obviously.
Empathize,
maybe sympathize. Yeah. Either way, I do feel a way for them because I can't imagine what that must be like to suddenly just be a normal person, to have this microscope on you. And I don't think anyone's trained for the experience of fame.
I mean, you can't be trained for it. You have to experience it and kind of learn as you go, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's how fame works. But I think majority of people that come into that line of business, should I say, I think they all have a little aspect of them that wants to be famous or to at least experience fame.
Yeah.
Because there's some people that experience it because they've wanted it, and then they're like, oh no, I don't like this, and then they back off from the limelight completely, and you never hear from them, or you don't hear from them that much. And then you got other people that go full throttle. And they show you everything now that they've got the opportunity. So any little bit and piece of their life that might go viral, or, you know, get this brand deal over here, or engage with this audience over here, that's what they want to do, innit? It's business at the end of the day, but it's very interesting.
It is so interesting because it is business at the end of the day. Like, that's what people are doing, but it's business built on real life in a sense, you know. That's kind of what they're sharing. So I don't know, I think it creates like a distorted sense of reality as well, because you're seeing these faces and these things all the time, so often. And even using your example of like Love Island stars and stuff, I think it's such a weird dynamic because their entire business rests on their relationship now.
Yeah. Sorry, I was laughing because I literally just had a thought in my head, right? And it was like, you came on this show for love, however, you're leaving with fame. And that's what I find so funny about that TV show and all the other TV shows along the same sort of lines of that. I mean, I'm not saying that's the intention of Love Island either, because they're just a provider of the platform. Yeah. Now, what you're supposed to do with that platform is come on and find somebody that you love, or find your girlfriend, boyfriend, person you want to be with for the rest of your life. Whatever you're on there for is what you're on there for, but it's mainly to be in like the romantic sense. Yeah. However, a lot of people will come off there and they'll come off there with fame and nobody to love, which is crazy. You came on there for one, you say you came on there for one thing, and then you left with something else. So,
and say is the word. Because I personally feel like people go into Love Island knowing that it's for everything aside from love, and you might be one of the rare lucky few who actually does find a real connection in there.
100%, I don't think it's about love anymore. It's just about providing entertainment for the masses.
Yeah.
And
I think people go on with that mindset of like, what character am I going to be
100%.
on this show?
When I watch some of these reality TV shows, I think a lot of these people just overplay their actual ego. That's where it gets over exaggerated, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. I don't think you're really like this in person. Yeah, this feels like an act, but okay, keep going.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. Keep entertaining us.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't really watch it much myself either. I think I like watching it when I can see people actually falling in love, and then it's really, really fun to watch and sweet and everything.
What feeling do you get off the back of that?
Of watching people fall in love? I don't know, but even now it just makes me feel so warm.
Yeah, because you're smiling, so I'm like, what feeling are you getting? Because even
it's just
the
so
thought
nice
of it,
to watch. It's like watching a rom-com or something, and then seeing two people's journeys and how they, you know, became something more solid, and then they come out of the Love Island set and they're still going. It's just it's just quite heartwarming to see that. Like, I don't think I've enjoyed Love Island when I've watched seasons where there were loads of fights and arguments and stuff like that. Personally, I really don't like it. I'm just like, why can't we all get along, you know? And I think that's what these companies do sell you on, like creating those feelings and those dreams and stuff like that. But then when you really look at it and you think about...
Everything's propaganda at the end of the day.
And when you think about it in your real life, you're like, but if I was really in that situation myself, not Love Island, but interacting with this kind of a person or whatever, would I really, how would I actually react in this? Would it really be enjoyable? I don't know.
Oh boy. The few times where I have watched Love Island because it was on in the background while I'm at someone's house, right?
Convenient, the background.
Yeah, no, I'm not turning that on for nothing. But I was watching it, and then when I was watching it, I was like, okay, cool, I can see how people can get sucked into this so easily. But then I'm just like, yo, the way you lot do each other on these shows is dirty. And then that makes me think, is that how like relationships are today? Is that what it's like trying to find love? I was going to say,
is it that different from real life?
Yeah.
Is it that different from real life? I don't know, because even like when you're talking to someone, in the back of your head, do you not have that feeling of how many other people are they talking to?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I don't get worried about
that. I feel overexposed now.
No, because you're not overexposing because you asked me the question.
I'm just saying, hypothetically, if someone feels that way, not me per se, but if that's how people feel, like, is that not something that you think about?
Nah, that's not really crossed my mind before.
Really? Why not?
Confident within my source, I guess. Okay. I don't know how else to I don't know how else to kind of I don't know how to explain it. I'm just I just, if they're talking to other people and I end up not being the person for them, they're gonna pick the other person anyway. And for all I know, they could have met that person before I came along. So they're deeper into it with that person than they are with me. So
you just don't make it about yourself. Yeah,
it is what it is. You need to take your ego out of a lot of things in life, whether it be dating, work life, all of that stuff, man. I feel like when everything becomes ego driven or self-centered, then you're just setting yourself up for failure, man.
That's so true. For the hypothetical person that needed that, you know. No, but I think especially I don't know, because in like today's dating world, I just feel like, and maybe it is an insecurity thing, I don't know, but maybe it isn't at the same time. Maybe it's like a skepticism, cynical thing. But I think it's natural for people to wonder how, I don't know if it's how long someone's going to keep talking to them, but just kind of have that in the back of your mind that something might not be taken away from you, but might meet its end, because things change so quickly sometimes.
I think it's better to have the awareness that it could end at some point rather than being oblivious to it and living in your delusion that it's going to last forever.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like early days and nobody's really made any commitment to each other.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, well, what would you call early days? What's early days to you?
Talking stage that people say.
Yeah.
I hate all of that stuff.
But time frame though, what is that to you?
Talking stage?
Yeah.
Talking stage is as long as it takes until somebody makes the first move to say, oh, should we go on a date here? Then the week after, let's go on a date here. Week after, let's go on a date there. Stuff like that. I think talking stage is when you lot are just
getting to know each other.
Just getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But then people also say the talking stage can be while you're dating and...
There's just so many blurred lines. So many blurred lines. What are the rules?
I miss the days, when I liked you and you like me, so let's be together and see what happens. And if it don't work out, it don't work out.
Exactly.
But at least we tried.
At least we tried.
I miss those days.
Me too.
I don't like all these now phases where there's a talking stage, dating phase, boyfriend girlfriend phase, and then even though we're dating, realistically we're in a situationship. Even though we're sleeping together, we're only just talking.
That will never be my situation again.
Lord,
no,
I see what you've done for other people. All I ask is when will you do it for me? You know what I mean?
I don't even want the how or the why, just the when. Just the when.
Yeah, facts. But no, man, jokes aside though.
Yeah.
Dating's dating, innit? Relationships are relationships. It is what it is. I mean, civilization will always evolve alongside technology. So technology back in the days, there was less I feel like I'm going onto a complete tangent.
I'm with you though. I like it. Go on.
But
we'll go back to what we were
technology back in the day was not as advanced as it is today. So your close circle would usually be the people that were in your area or people that are like the surrounding areas as well. So but nowadays you can find a guy that's in America, and if he likes you that much, he'll fly you out there to be with him.
True.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So technology is different now. So people have endless options. You can go on a dating app and have endless options. Yeah. So you don't truly value people as much as you should, or as much as you would have back in the days without technology. Is what it is.
I don't. That is true.
Do you disagree?
Let me land. Let me.
No. I'm just. Do your thing.
I don't necessarily disagree. That's a strong word, because I do see it, and a majority of people are like that. You know, where it's just a quantity thing. Even, someone was talking to me the other day about her friend who broke up with his girlfriend, and he's on these dating apps now, just jumping right back in there, which is fine, good for him. And he's kind of really choosing quantity over quality, like just trying to speak to as many women as he can. And it's just like, what are the rules? How long should I wait to reply? Like, how am I supposed to collect all these women kind of thing? But on the other hand, I know a lot of people, myself being one of them, who really does find value on these apps, because I think if you go on there with an open mind, and this is where I think overexposure can be a positive thing in terms of what you said, like the internet exposing us to other kinds of people who we wouldn't normally speak to or be around. And I think it's useful in connecting you to other people.
100%.
Because you never know what something could turn into. And I think the problem arises when you fixate on, I've met this person and it needs to work, like they need to be my boyfriend now. It needs to move out of the stage that we're in into another stage, because you're not valuing what's going on in front of you, and not every experience is going to turn into a relationship, for example, or like the thing that lasts forever, but that doesn't mean it's not still valuable. I agree with that. I agree with that. I just don't think that people are looking at long-term value when it comes to finding or meeting people. They're looking more for the short-term value. So it's, what has this person currently got that can benefit my life that I've got right now? I think it's that type of stuff. But that's just my perspective. That's just what my reality is currently showing me. But it doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, you know what I mean? And that's a good way of putting it. Like, that's just the reality at that time. And you know what? That used to kind of be my reality of kind of meeting very shallow or superficial people at a certain time. And that's kind of why I liked going on dating apps, actually, because I'd go on there, see what's going on, take a break and delete my profile altogether. I've done that round, and then remake it and do the whole thing. And it would be so interesting to see the type of people that were speaking to me, because it was kind of reflecting my energy back at me. Like I'd kind of use it as an experiment, like, okay, who is interacting with me the most? Like what kind of man? And also, who am I going for right now? You know, and it just is a nice way to check in with yourself to see what's going on with you.
Very interesting.
Super interesting. It is. It really, really is.
Very interesting perspective. I never would have thought of it like that.
It's so fun. Seriously. Obviously, it's not fun when not many great things are being reflected back. And you're like, oh, I'm in my... Because it's not, you know, it's an energy thing. So for me, that was really interesting because it showed me what I was and wasn't ready for at the time. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready for anything serious right now, depending on what's being reflected back to me. Yeah. Okay. At that time.
Would you say you're a very self-aware person?
I think as a self-aware person, I don't want to say yes, because you are constantly learning about yourself.
100%. But you know who you are within this moment.
Yeah. Or if I don't, then I'm able to reflect on it at some point and get a better perspective. Understood. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know exactly what you're doing in the moment. You're just reacting. You're not responding. But yeah, I would say I'm self-aware. I think looking at things like that, like how the world is interacting with me, has always been something quite interesting to me.
It's interesting. Very interesting.
Why?
No. I was just trying to think in like relation to overexposure. Do you feel like you yourself are overexposed to anything at this current moment?
What do you mean? As in like I'm... what do you mean?
Like the content that you consume, whether it be on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, like whatever platform it might be on, could even be on TV. Do you feel like there's any type of... narrative, agenda, or some type of identity the people you're watching want you to take on for yourself? Like, do you feel you're overexposed to anything like that, maybe?
That's such a good question. Interesting, as you'd say. But I would say yeah, I am. And let me think back, because I think my algorithm does change quite often, which is scary, because I think it's based on the conversations I have. So it's scary.
The phones are always listening. You know what I mean?
They really are.
Yeah.
But I think two things that I've noticed on my feed lately, like a lot of, is one, a lot of content by both women and men, but I'd say on my newsfeed maybe more women, on dating or how to deal with a guy, or like, to be more specific, I guess, kind of like drawing the line between being in your feminine energy, but then also how to get what you want from a man, kind of thing.
Oof. Hey.
I know.
Hey.
It's been insightful, but also not insightful, because for me personally, and I don't want to dive into this topic too much because it's so off topic, but I just think there's the thing that I don't really like about those narratives is that there's a very clear wrong and right by the person who's talking about it. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it kind of, especially if maybe you're younger or more impressionable or just heartbroken and therefore more vulnerable, you might be someone who really latches onto these words. And what a lot of these words tell you is that there is this kind of man that is good only, and that man needs to be earning this much and spending this much on you. And I think that's all amazing if that's the kind of man that you want, you know? And yeah, I don't know. I really believe that you should go for what is compatible for you and not force someone who isn't compatible for you to be that thing.
But don't you think knowing what's compatible for you takes a certain level of self-awareness that maybe majority of people don't have, and that's why they need to date, to try and figure out what is compatible for them. And if they don't want to go through the whole dating many people to figure out what is compatible with them, then they're going to go off the basis of whatever they're overexposed to on one of these platforms, and then be like, okay, so you're telling me I need to go for a man that's got this and that. Okay, so now when I go out into the world, I'm not dating unless he's got this and that. So,
and you might not even want those things. Like, those might not even be the core things in your value system, you know? Like,
but the overexposure of that content will make you believe that as a woman or as a man, this is what you should be looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really quite annoying, actually. I'm trying to get it off my algorithm.
You just need to not share it. If you like, there's a way of saying, oh, not interested, and then it will stop showing
and I'm
it to
waiting
you.
for those messages to come up, and they're just not.
I think there's a way of doing that yourself. You just have to hold your finger on the video, and then
show me how to do it after, because it is really annoying. And also, to add to what you said with self-awareness, I think it takes a level of courage to be self-aware and to put yourself in situations and not just react and run from something, but to, like, you know, run from a person, but to be there and see who you are in that situation.
100%.
Because you just won't learn otherwise.
100%.
Yeah.
Going back on I've got a question for you. So going back on the topic of overexposure, because you did mention earlier about like a young girl, that type of content, they'll be very impressionable. So that will definitely shape how they view men, for one. Yeah. So now with that type of overexposure, and that we're aware of it as well, do you feel like parents need to be careful of what their children are then consuming? And at what age should that parental supervision kind of like cut off? Because even when you hit the age of 18, 19, 20, you can still be quite impressionable by what you watch. Yeah. So is it still a parent's job to kind of like overlook it and let them know that's not really it? Or what do you think?
Yeah, so I actually, so firstly, with impressionable, I feel like being impressionable could happen at any time of your life, depending on what you have just been through. So that's one thing I just wanted to add in there in terms of impressionability. But so your question is about parental supervision and how they should monitor that. Well, I think the internet is as vast as the ocean, you know. It is really hard to put a container on that, especially when it is true, like the phones can hear you. Like, I really believe that is a fact, and I'm scared because I didn't put my phone on airplane mode before saying this. But that's a real thing. You never really know what your child is really going to come across, no matter how hard you put parental supervisions and passwords and things on stuff, because you don't know what someone at school who has less parental supervision is going to show them. So I think real safeguarding and supervision against the internet, or what could happen, is raising children to have strong minds. It's a lot, you know, if you really are a parent who cares about this kind of stuff, is going to take a lot more effort to deal with that, to raise. Basically, what I'm trying to say is a lot more needs to be done in the home before kids even pick up a phone, in terms of teaching them how to be independent thinkers, to be critical thinkers, to be able to question everything, to not take every single word as gospel from the people around them. So when they're seeing people on the internet, they're already using an activated, discerning mind. They're not just soaking everything in, and that takes a very different kind of parenting, you know, maybe a more collaborative parenting, the type of parenting where you don't just say, I'm speaking and you have to listen to me because I have authority. Because when they see someone who has more than them online, who has authority, they're already going to be in the mindset to be a sponge and soak that up. So there's like a level of self-esteem and confidence, and like I said, that critical thinking that you need to instill in children by letting them have independent minds. And it goes back to what you said with taking your ego out of it as a parent. So it's a much harder way to do things, but that's what parenting comes with, I think.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
Thank you.
I've got another question for you.
Okay, hit me. Let's go.
So,
flip the script.
Do you feel like we choose what we're overexposed by? And I'll give a brief example. So let's just say Instagram pages that are always posting negative things of the culture that we're currently living in today. Like, oh, this rapper is beefing this rapper here.
I was watching stuff like that today.
Yeah. So it's like, if we're choosing to follow these pages, then technically don't we choose what we're overexposed by? Because we can follow the positive pages, but majority of us are probably choosing not to. Because it's not as entertaining, which is kind of
so
funny.
True.
Don't you find
it's
that?
not as I'm that person.
Right.
It is not as entertaining.
Right,
I have been watching Blueface's and Krishan's relationship for years now.
Oh,
just
Lord.
seeing how it unfolds.
You saw that the other day. She's got
I did.
Yeah.
And that's why I was just, the story is only thickening.
Oh,
I'm never going to
Lord.
stop watching them. They are too entertaining. And even like other content with conspiracy theories and stuff going on and all of that kind of stuff.
I love that stuff.
Me too.
I love that.
Me too. And it got to a point where I was just going to sleep scared and waking up scared because I was just watching this content all the time. And it was making my real body and my real life feel very cold. And I had to like look at myself and decide, I'm actually not helping anything by consuming this information. Like, I think as someone who can sometimes feel, and this is also an illusion, but powerless with the powers that be who control all these things and are doing all that stuff, I think that maybe the way that I'm contributing or helping is by absorbing this content and knowing more about it, and maybe this information is good or helpful. And then you have to look at your real life and what actually is good and helpful. Like, if you think about your values of moving forward and not being stagnant and progressing and being a happier person, even the simplest things like that, is knowing more about this helping me do that. Because as a growth-minded and happier person, I'm going to help more people in my real life. And so you kind of have to like, observe yourself in that way as well. Like, how much are you falling into these social issues and becoming part of that propaganda, I guess, without even really knowing it?
Interesting.
And you kind of have to, like, for me personally, reach the point where, there's always going to be a conspiracy that I really do 100% believe are true. I don't care. But when I'm watching this stuff, mentally, I have to know that I'm watching entertainment, because there is, as a human, a darker side of me that is fixated with these things. It's entertaining for me.
It's a guilty pleasure, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't even feel that guilty. Like, I really want to...
You want to dive even deeper into the rabbit hole. I hear you.
Yeah. So when now I'm doing it with the lens of like, I'm watching a horror movie or something, you know, like I'm viewing it as entertainment, but it's not, it is real life. But with that kind of barrier.
Horror movies are real life to you?
Not horror movies, I mean like the conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Understood. Got you.
Yeah, exactly. I personally don't even watch horror movies, but those would be the closest thing that I get to it. Yeah. Exactly.
Are there any this is on a tangent, but I'm dying to know, are there any conspiracies that you've researched or heard recently that is kind of like let me think. This is a tangent. if not, it's fine.
Some mind-blowing conspiracies. I just feel like I don't know if I want to say them on the podcast, but I just
edit them out, innit?
I feel like some mind-blowing conspiracies. Nothing really comes to mind.
Okay, that's fair.
In this exact moment.
That's fair.
But I think maybe just stuff around like celebrities and what kind of goes on behind closed doors and stuff like that. Yeah.
I hear that.
That kind of stuff.
I hear that.
I'm really fascinated with.
Do you know about the phrase hidden in plain sight? Yeah. So it's like when you look back at a lot of these videos with these celebrities, because we were overexposed to so much stuff from them at one point, you kind of don't actually notice the intricate things that are in these videos, and there's always been like little signs here and there. And then like these conspiracy theorists will break down a certain video and be like, oh, do you see that? See this movement here? See how this person's done this?
I used to watch those things on YouTube.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it just depends whether you want to believe it or not, but at the same time, like everything that's in the dark will come to light at some point. So
yeah, exactly. And even more off topic and on a tangent.
We've been doing that the whole episode. I'm here for it. I love it.
Me too. And this, in a nutshell, is overexposure. But on a tangent, like one thing that I saw in a video that I learned was, you know how people talk about the matrix and stuff like that? There's several matrices.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like there's several different schools of thought that keep you trapped into thinking that you are much less than what you are.
Yeah.
And what I believe is that anything that you watch or hear or read or dive into that makes you feel powerless or makes you forget that you are the universe within yourself, you're falling into the matrix.
Yeah, 100%. Everything is programming. That's why it's called TV program. Do you get it? So you just have to understand who's programming me. Why do they want to program me, and what are they programming me to believe? And then I think once you have that, you can have the discernment and self-awareness to watch anything freely without even really realistically being affected by it. But that's just my personal thought.
Yeah, and I agree, but from like the other side of it. So I would say what I would want to keep in mind is, what do I want to program myself for and to be? Like to keep me, and not in an ego way, but just to keep me as like the center of that. And anything that isn't in alignment with that, I try to take very lightly. Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, when I'm watching like reality TV shows or even like this stuff with celebrities online and their relationships, or even Love Island, I think part of why it appeals to me so much is because I like to psychoanalyze the characters.
Yes. Yeah. I relate to that.
Yeah.
I relate to that.
I like to just think, so that's what an insecure attachment looks like. And then it's horrible when you're like, oh my God, is that what I sound like when I do these things, you know? And it's a self-awareness moment in that sense. And you're like, don't be that character, be like this character.
You know, you said something that's really interesting to me, because these things that we get exposed to, like the reality TV shows and stuff, where you said you try to be like, oh, is this how I act and stuff like that. So it's like, I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day because he loves all of this stuff. So I said to him, subconsciously, when we watch TV shows and movies and all of these things, we try to find a character that we relate to the most. And it's like you kind of just proved my point, because you were watching the show and you saw a trait in somebody else and you were like, oh my gosh, do I act like that?
Yeah.
You had a moment of self-awareness, like, oh, I can relate to this, even though it probably wasn't the best trait to be exposing, but it was still something you related to.
Yeah.
And I just think that's very interesting about us as people. And I think that's why we accept being overexposed to a lot of this content,
because we all just want to connect.
Yeah, we all want to feel connected to certain things.
And I think that's actually such a good point to come around to, you know, like the reason why overexposure does have everyone in a chokehold sometimes is because we just want to connect. Like you want to connect as the user who's sharing your story, but you also want to connect as the person watching it and just be part of something. Where do you think that comes from? Like, do you think it's an innate human need to want to connect that way, or do you think it's because of the way that we're living today?
Yeah, I think, well, we're all human beings and it's natural for humans to want to feel some sort of connection. That's why we have tribes and, you know, we have our own little packs and families that we create for ourselves and all of that stuff. Like, we need to feel connected, and the current technology times that we're living in kind of don't allow us to be as connected as we would have been without it. So the only way that we can connect is through these kind of platforms, and that's by trying to connect with people that we can see on our screens and be like, oh, I connect with this, or I relate to that, and
or even culturally, like
connecting
with substances, you know, with drinking or with stuff like that. There's always this segue into being able to connect with someone more often than not.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I'm going to count how many times you said interesting today.
I don't think I've said it that much.
True, maybe not as much as usual, but
no, but now that it's a conscious thing in my I'm going to end up saying it so much now.
I won't even notice. It'll be the same amount to me. But yeah, it is an interesting thing because I don't know, I feel like I wonder how if we change the way that we even connect to ourselves, that would impact the way that we connect with internet.
Say that again.
Like if we change the way that we connect to ourselves, you know, and to maybe even take it back a step, do you feel like people are well connected to themselves?
Absolutely not. No, you didn't even have to complete the question.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Everybody likes to believe they're going on this spiritual journey, but it's like, no.
We've segued into such a good off-tangent topic. What's your thoughts on that?
Or like the spiritual journey?
Yeah. And especially in regard to connection and maybe how people use that or interact with it rather than use is a bad word.
So when it comes to spiritual journey, you're supposed to spend a lot of time with yourself and by yourself. And now the people that say they're on a spiritual journey or they're spiritually aware and all these like coined phrases and stuff, they're the type of people that don't really want to be alone ever. And that's kind of what being on your spiritual journey is. It's just being in that sense of, I wouldn't say loneliness, but for lack of better words, loneliness, to the point where the only thing you have is the thoughts in your head. And it's either you deal with it and you come out on top, or you allow it to swallow you whole. That's how I view like a spiritual journey. That's how mine was anyway. So I spent a lot of time by myself, and when you spend time by yourself, that's when you learn who you are.
What did you do with that time? Like what did that time by yourself look like?
Just did a lot of studying, did a lot of research on stuff, did a lot of, I think I've told you this before, I was researching meditation. So I was looking at meditation, I was getting into that. That's when I started learning about conspiracy theories, all of that stuff. And on top of that, I also started to learn like black history, but not just black history of like slavery, trade and all of that stuff, because that's only a portion of our history. I was looking at Mansa Musa, other like proper like African traditions and all of that stuff. I was proper researching black history and trying to figure out, where do I come from? Who are my ancestors? What were we capable of? What was the civilization like? What were our teachings? Like there's something called it's the 42 laws of Ma'at, and that was like principles that the ancient Egyptians and other people in Africa would also live by.
That's so interesting.
So I did a lot of research, man. I had to know, who is this person in this body, because we're just basically all souls that are just having a human experience, innit? I
agree. Yeah, that's one thing I say quite often, that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And my spiritual journey was quite not similar to that, but in terms of that being alone thing, that was a core part of it actually, because for me, I never really sought out spirituality or like was even aware of that as like a thing or a term or whatever. All I know is that I was just in like a hard point in my life, and I was in my mid to early 20s, and I'd walked away from like a good few significant things and changed my number. And I think the only person who had my number was my brother, and he lived with me, so I literally never needed my phone. And for 3 months I kind of was that way, because I just needed a break from all the chaos. And then because I was looking for solutions or things to help me from, you know, to recover from what I'd gone through, that's when I came across chakras. And then and like it became an obsession, but in like maybe it wasn't healthy actually, but I loved it. Like it was amazing. And I kind of went into detail into learning about each and every one, and then meditating, and then balancing each one and meditating on each single chakra, and then meeting other people, because that's kind of what the universe does. Like it just aligns you in the right place at the right time, and then meeting people who could teach me more. And then that journey kind of grew. And like I said, with the universe aligning things in the right time, I agree wholeheartedly that you do need a period of time where you're alone, and you're not just, because I know a lot of people who have found themselves alone at a period of time, and they've done all the right things, you know, like meditated, exercised, eaten well. But until you're alone with your thoughts, as you said, and take a good look at what those thoughts are telling you, or what you think they're telling you about yourself, and then taking the time to meet that version of yourself and reprogram it, I don't think you've actually been alone.
Facts.
You know,
Facts.
you can be alone and fill the time with yoga or researching all the right things to eat, and that's all beneficial. You know, none of it's not beneficial to like hug a tree. I love doing that, but I really
I've
do.
never gone on that deep of a level of
I love it.
spiritual awareness,
I seriously
but I
love
hear
it.
that.
But
hear
you're
that.
just like filling your time with things instead of people, you know, instead of like connecting with something. And yeah, like it's different when you're just reading something, and then when you're connecting with it and it's changing you.
I had a question, but it slipped my mind now, because you started talking about hugging trees.
You just have to try it before you say anything to me. It's really nice. It's just a side hug. It's not anything crazy.
Going back to overexposure, I saw a funny TikTok, and then it made me go down a whole rabbit hole of like people that actually do all this tree hugging and stuff like that. Because the original TikTok was I can't remember it word for word, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but there was a guy who was basically filming his girlfriend taking off her shoes and putting her feet on the roots of a tree, and then he was like, babe, what you doing? And then she was like, this is how I'm feeling energized, she's giving me energy. And he was like, oh my gosh,
there she goes again, can't take it anywhere.
But that made me go down a whole rabbit hole of, again, where I was choosing to be overexposed to tree hugging and stuff, because I started looking for it. So but even in that situation, like, what do you think of the guy who is taking a video of his girlfriend, you know, while she's hugging a tree that's one of
to
those
laugh
moments
at her
as
on
well,
TikTok,
where, see, when it comes to overexposure, right?
Because I will hug many trees, but I'll still smack the phone out of his hand. I'm not going to be that calm.
I think majority of people who are social media influencers, quote unquote, content creators, I think they know within the moment what will kind of look good on camera and look good on the platforms and all of that stuff. And also a lot of this stuff is scripted as well. Yeah. We have to take that into consideration. That's a lot of stuff is scripted. So it's like, you see
pranks.
Yeah, the pranks are scripted, and also the ones where they just find random people on the street and start asking them questions like, oh, what do you think? Some of them aren't. But then it's like, oh, swap phones. And it's like, okay, I'll swap this person's phone and that person's phone. Yeah. A lot of that is scripted. Yeah. That's very scripted.
And you can see it, and it's really annoying. Yeah. And that would keep coming up on my algorithm. And I was like, what did I say to like warrant this? Like, why is this on my feed?
But a person who's watching, who's unaware of these things, they're going to take it for reality. And then they're going to be like, oh, damn, okay.
Exactly.
I hear it. That's how men and women are, and it's this, and then shapes their reality and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I was just going to say. That's it. Because then all you're seeing is, you know, people just cheat on each other all the time. And that's the reality that you're feeding yourself.
Do you feel, this is kind of like a conspiracy, yeah?
Okay.
But do you feel these platforms are trying to push the agenda and normalize that this is all okay?
This being
like cheating on your partner, going through phones. Like, do you think they're trying to normalize that?
Oh, such a good question. So, I feel like they're trying to do two things, maybe three. So I think, yes, they are trying to normalize that behavior, you know, that everyone cheats on everyone and you should be paranoid, and it's good and normal to check people's phones, especially if you look at the context that those videos are coming in, you know. I always say memes come from somewhere. Like there's a place of truth somewhere. To push something, you know. There were all these memes about girls with pancake asses before everyone started getting a BBL. So, and I don't see those memes anymore, you know. So I believe that even all those funny videos about I checked his phone and blah blah blah, I think it's made light of to normalize those behaviors, which obviously aren't great. So that's one thing. I think they are normalizing certain stuff. And then also I believe that an agenda that is at play is for a larger thing, you know. So to continue separating people from each other and from themselves, that's what this content does, you know. It makes you not trust other people, it makes you look at your own man differently, and all those kinds of things. And then it also separates you from yourself, because you're now listening to your ego mind, which has been programmed by things other than yourself, instead of your actual inner being that tells you you're good enough and that you're worthy and that you really have nothing to worry about ever.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's always an agenda at play, because you'll see around a certain time of month, or like before a certain time, there's going to be all these videos of how cute my boyfriend is, look at the surprise he did for
Valentine's
me, blah blah blah. Exactly. So you're going to start suddenly seeing all these happy couples out of nowhere for no reason, and all these families with kids, and make everyone really broody, because people need to now be indoctrinated to go buy expensive things, you know, or to like be rushed into doing something that they might not be ready for. So
it's very oversaturated.
Yeah,
you don't see real relationships. You just see the relationships that people want you to believe they have.
Because real relationships are out there living their lives being normal. That's what real relationships are doing, you know? And I think it's hard when there's this culture being created and then you don't really see many successful or real relationships in your real life. And even actually what I just said is an example of programming, because just because someone breaks up with someone, it doesn't mean that that relationship wasn't successful anymore.
Depends what you label as successful. Like
if you see successful and the only measure of success being you have to stay together forever and get married and have children and be happily together forever, that is a type of success, and I agree with that. But I also think successful relationships are ones where you've had a good time together. You may have also had not great times together, which the other example have also experienced. Everyone has ups and downs, but you've grown from the relationship and amicably decided that we don't have to keep forcing this. That to me is also a success, rather than waiting for the point where it's so toxic that, you know, the universe has to rip you out of there. I think that's important too. That's successful to me, if like when you look back you're different from how you were when you got into that relationship.
The best definition of success I've ever heard is from Bill Nightingale, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the quote word for word, but he said a person who is a success is a person who is working towards a worthwhile goal. So the person who says they want to be a hairdresser and they decide to cut hair, they're a success. Whether they're making a lot of money or not, they're still a success because they are doing what they said they want to do.
Exactly.
So in terms of relationships, I would definitely say if you decide I want to be with this person, regardless for how long it is with, I want to be with this person and love them entirely as much as I can and in the best way I can. If you're choosing to do that and you're doing that, then I would say you have a successful relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And your successful relationship doesn't have to look like the other person's. Your successful relationship might be an open relationship.
Yay. Lord Jesus.
Maybe not for you.
Yeah, I hear that.
Probably not for me. But for many people out there, or some, an open relationship is a successful situation.
Okay. I hear that. No, I hear that. Each to their own, innit?
Exactly. Each to their own. And I think we have to like allow people to be who they want to be.
100%.
Like, have you come across the term polyamory or polyamorous?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew someone who was 100% polyamorous. Like, she was a very polyamorous person, and she kept forcing herself into monogamous relationships and just became like a serial cheater. And that's
because she's not living in her truth.
Exactly. Because it's so frowned upon, you know? And it was just so sad to me, because I was like, you would just kill the polyamorous game. Like, you're so made for it. That is who you are. Like, you're so good at balancing all these different connections when you're single. It's a shame that you don't feel as understood to carry that forward in a relationship, or to find someone on the same page as you as that. It's an interesting one, and I think it's hard to speak on if you are not like that yourself, which I don't think I am. What's your thoughts? You're so silent.
Nah, I'm deep in thought because I'm trying to word what I say carefully, because this is quite new to civilization, right? Like, I would say within the last 50 years, it has not been as prominent as it is today.
Yeah.
So the words I want to say on the matter, I just want to choose carefully so that nobody is offended, you know what I mean? Because obviously I have my own opinions, doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but I have my opinions, and I don't want to like offend anybody in the way they choose to live their life.
All right, so disclaimer set, no one come for...
Yeah, no one tried to cancel me.
Exactly,
no, I'm
exactly.
joking.
Go.
I'm joking.
Now say what you need to say.
Nah, I just feel like this is like new think type of stuff, innit? So it's untested, and it's got a very small community as well. It's not on such a large scale as it is with like monogamous relationships. So yeah, I mean, I'm not one that currently understands it. I'm open to understanding it and having a like open dialect with somebody who's in that situation, and we can discuss it. Yeah. And but I just don't really understand it. I feel like human beings were made to be monogamous, and then everything else outside of that then becomes a choice because of comfortability probably, and also trauma, upbringing, all of that stuff too. Because you don't have to, but when you do psychologically analyze it, a lot of that stuff does come down to that.
I agree to an extent. I think some people, it's kind of like what we said earlier on with that example with like the kind of man that you want and blah, blah, blah. And I think everything goes, you know, on this earth. Just because you don't see it often or don't hear it often doesn't mean it's not real. Like, truly, we're all just here to have a human experience, and it's meant to be as vastly different from each other, because that's how creative the universe is. So I believe that polyamory is like a very real thing, but I also believe from my personal experience of it was kind of what you said. Like, when I was trying out, I don't think I ever called myself polyamorous, but I was in an open relationship. It was kind of for those...
Yay. God bless you.
It was for, you know, kind of part of it was curiosity and experimenting, like to see if this is something that's for me.
100%.
Yeah. But a lot of it was because, one, the person I was with was polyamorous. So that kind of came with being with them. So I was open to trying it because of that too. And secondly...
Sorry to cut you out. I have a question,
Okay.
If you would have never dated a polyamorous person, would you have ever been open to trying it?
Yeah, because it was in my head. I was like, I really want to try an open relationship. I just want to see what it's all about, and if it's a bit of me. It wasn't. It really, really wasn't. It was not for me. I realized that now, you know.
You need to try things to know. So.
You need to try things to know. And I needed that experience, because what you mentioned, like things like trauma, commitment issues, all of that kind of stuff, that's what came to the surface for me, and what made me realize what was going on with me, that it was just easier at that time to not feel like I'm putting all my eggs into one basket, rather than actually being about that life and going through that to know that I'm a very monogamous person.
I hear that.
Yeah, I can't do it. I don't like to share. I don't want to be shared. Like, it's just not, just not for me. But being part of that for a while and being around other people who genuinely were polyamorous, I had a lot of respect for them for living in their truth and doing something outside of the norm, because it is so healthy for them. You know, like if that's really what you're like and you come across other people who are like that, then it's a perfect situation for you, you know, and I don't see anything wrong with it.
I hear it still.
Yeah.
I hear it.
Yeah. I saw people have a lot of successful and multiply successful connections, you know, and each person feeling valued and cared for. And it made me think of just how abundant and unconditional love is, you know, that it can be spread so evenly and abundantly.
As long as everyone is happy at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. I mean, who cares what anyone else thinks, to be fair? It's all about your own happiness, to be fair.
Exactly. And to bring it back to overexposure as well, that kind of made me think too that I think exposure online can be so useful for unconventional or less known communities like that, to bring insight into their world. I agree. Yeah, for sure. And not just like that, like even with, you know, trans people, for example, or you know, I can't think of other examples, but like, you know, other communities that aren't as known about, or where the stronger voice is like the narrative that comes from the news or other places rather than the people themselves. I think it's so useful to be overexposed in that sense.
I hear that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely hear that. Yeah, I mean, when you're a part of a small community, or you're a minority in like the grand scheme of things, it's always good to have, or it's always good to be able to find your community just by typing something in the search bar.
Yeah,
do you know what
definitely.
I mean?
And being able to like type in a feeling or an issue that you might be experiencing, that you might feel so even ashamed of or something, you know, especially things like like mental health issues or something really specific that you don't feel like you could talk about with anyone else, and someone's sharing their experience. I feel like in that moment they're almost like a miracle, just because you needed to know that someone else is going through something like that.
Will Smith had a quote, paraphrasing again because I don't remember it word for word.
Okay.
But
we'll edit it in. We're going.
Literally everything that you've experienced in life and every problem you've gone through, every issue you've had, somebody's written a book about it already, and how to deal with it and how to get through it.
Yeah. So
you are never truly alone with anything that you experience.
Yeah. I like that a lot, because it makes you think in a humbling way, like you and no one around you is unique as you think with your issues.
To a degree,
To a degree,
Very interesting.
It's interesting. So we're coming up to the end of the episode now.
Oh, already?
Yeah.
Damn,
already.
okay.
I know. We're going to have to take this off air because there's so many more things to talk about. But one thing we like to do when we end an episode is we like to give a word of advice, which usually ends up being a couple of sentences. But if you can try, we like to summarize kind of what we've spoken about into one word as advice that you'd give to the people.
Word of advice. One word. It
doesn't have to be one word, but it would be great if but it really doesn't have to be, because we often say a couple of sentences anyway.
If I was to try and compact everything down into one word, it's one word that has occurred quite frequently throughout this conversation: discernment.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk us through your word of advice. Why discernment? It's going to be my word, actually.
How do I explain this? So the reason as to why I picked it, because that word has been used quite frequently with a friend of mine that because me and him always have debates, and his side of the debate is always, but August, you must always have discernment, and that's why I don't follow this and I don't listen to that. And I'm like, yeah, but there's proof of here and he's like, who cares about the proof? Discernment. And I'm like, okay, cool.
I like your friend. That's exactly how I sound. I'd be like, who cares about all this hard evidence?
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, discernment. Yeah. And like having conversations with him made me realize how much of that I lacked in my own life sometimes. So
in what sense?
We'd be going off onto a whole complete tangent, but yeah. That gave me like a realization, and yeah, discernment is very important in life. You must always have discernment, and you have to be able to tell this from that, and also think something is trying to program me, and they're trying to teach me something or make me think a certain way, and what is it that they're trying to make me think and believe, and I'll choose and I'll decide if I want to go along with that. That's
and how far you go along with it too, because it's fine to agree with things to an extent.
Yeah, but you don't want to just delusionally follow everything as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. You really don't. Yeah.
Have discernment, guys.
Have discernment. Exactly. You stole my word. That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
What other word could you have
my
chosen?
word of advice for today, with everything we've spoken about, I would say. This is quite a hard one for today, actually. What would I say with my word of advice would be to be aware of your indulgence. A couple words. Okay. Be aware of your indulgence, because it's okay to watch horrific things sometimes if you want 100%. To. Yeah, like our humanity means that we have the full spectrum of human emotion, you know. We don't have to be all love and light all the time. It is boring.
Yeah, facts.
It is. Facts. So you can indulge in that, but like have discernment and self-awareness with how much you're indulging in it and how much it's affecting your real life as well.
It's okay to consume this content.
Yeah.
Just have to understand what it is and what it's for.
Yeah. And what it's not for, and how much you should limit it with yourself as well.
100%.
Yeah, well, thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah,
always.
Definitely.
I'm always down to come back whenever you need
for sure,
me.
Yeah,
I'm there, man.
Good. And where can people find you?
You can find me, just type in August 12th on Google. I'll come up instantly.
And Instagram. Is it 12th like numbers?
Yeah, 12th. 12th is in the letters.
Okay.
So August 12th. My Instagram is August 12th. TikTok is August 12th. Twitter is August 12th _ or X. Sorry, it's X now.
Okay.
But yeah, that's me. I'm everywhere.
Okay, everywhere. We will find you. We will cancel you. No, I'm joking.
Oh,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Hey.
And on that note, everyone, if you enjoyed our conversation, like, subscribe, comment. We love reading all of that stuff, and we'll see you again soon.
Peace.